So this is going to be our webinar for Module 4. To finish off our birthing module, I'd like you to meet Jesusa Ricoy straight from London. She's joining us, and we're going to talk about obstetric violence. So thanks for joining us, Jesusa.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
Jesusa is an activist. She'll tell us a little bit more about what she does during her daily life, and she also teaches childbirth education and has been one of my professors as well, so she's full of information. So we have lots of interesting stuff to talk about. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you work with women and also more about this activist work you do?
Yeah, sure. Right. Most of my work with women is primarily in the form of antenatal classes. I teach for the NCT in England, which is a big organization that has campaigned for many years for the rights of women. So that's let's say, my main profession, and that's what I do as a living. But then I also work in a kind of volunteer capacity as an activist. I like to define myself as a matri activist because I think that most of my activism can be kind of put together in a way of saying that I work or I campaign for issues that have to do with the fact that matriarchy doesn't work in the current system. So it's a lot of issues to do with pregnancies, with menstruation, with breastfeeding. So I made up that word as a way of putting it together.
Great. Yeah, you have very important work. Thanks for doing all that and voluntarily. It's amazing. I don't know how you fit it all in. So can you tell?
I don't find that I have a choice. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's just an impulse. You can't not do anything,
yeah,
right?
I just can't.
You have to
go like that.
Yeah. So maybe first tell us, in your words, why does it matter how women give birth? Why does our experience of birthing matter?
It's a very good question, and I believe that Ina May Gaskin wrote an entire book on that one. I probably, funny enough, I was watching a program yesterday that a woman was talking very passionate about her experience of birth. And I think that she put it out quite well because it's a rite of passage for women. It's disregarded because women's culture is not really there on an everyday basis. It's being quite suppressed because there is a primary way of looking at the world that is pre-male orientated. But for women, it is an incredible rite of passage. And what that means is that when it goes well, or when it goes in a way that the woman feels in control, feels happy with the experience, and that can be in many different ways. I'm not prescribing one particular way of birthing, but as long as the woman is informed and understands what's going on, and she goes with the process, then it can be an amazing, transcendental experience that can bring that woman to know herself in a different way, to understand her capacity, to feel an ownership of her body, to express herself through that situation. And I think it's of huge importance in the life of a woman. I'm not saying everybody has to be a mom, but I'm saying that when you do that and when you have that, there are many experiences in life that may connect you with that side of yourself. I'm not saying that birth is unique. It has to be the only way, of achieving that. But it can be transcendental. It can make you feel, I don't know, in touch with a sort of, should I call it mystic? I don't like to call it mystic, but a more transcendental part of yourself that we normally don't explore and we don't come in touch with. Equally, that experience going wrong, and experience it in a negative way that I'm sure you're going to ask me about how and so on, that can have devastating consequences for life.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think it matters.
Absolutely. So maybe you can define then what is obstetric violence.
Well, obstetric violence, I have defined it in so many ways that sometimes I think it should be a more simplistic way of putting it. But I think is when we disregard the ownership that women have over their bodies, over the experiences of birth, and we disregard the wishes, intentions, positions, rhythms, and so on. I have a better definition, but I cannot quote myself. And basically, when we disregard all that, when we pay no attention to that, and whoever whoever is around that woman takes over that process and makes it their process.
Yeah.
That's an abuse, because that experience belongs to women. And then some people will say, yeah, but somebody said in one of my classes recently, right, but they are the experts. And I want to know that, I want the experts to decide. And I say, that's fine. You can go to a nutrition shop and say that you need cod liver oil. And then they will say to you, they have these capsules and they have oil, and you should take the capsules. But you know for a fact that the oil is better for you, the fluid, because you tolerate it better. So you still can make a decision. So they may be the nutritionist, but you can also know about your body and what you prefer or what it works better for you. So, I think it's about that. It doesn't mean that you're saying no to everything else.
Yeah. So maybe can you give some examples of situations that women have explained to you? Maybe
it ranges. It ranges from, I remember one woman trying, and I mean, this is confidential because I'm not giving names, but I remember, coming from the less violent to the more violent, if you can qualify them like that. But to be honest, maybe these women experience in different ways. But one saying, I was trying to hold the hand of my midwife and she said, don't touch my hand. And I thought it was such a...
Wow.
I still get very upset about it because I think it's such a lack of humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, in a gesture like that. And, I think I will expect anybody to give me a hand in the tube, in the bus, in a situation that it was like that. If I was to fail in the bus or something, I will run to somebody and hold the hand. It's a human impulse.
Yeah.
So to say something like that in actually a context of vocational sort of nursing, midwifery type of thing,
it's terrible.
It is the most inhumane gesture, I can think of. And this woman was really crying on the phone and telling me, and she just pulled my hand down and said, don't you ever touch my hand again.
Oh, gosh.
And, it puzzles me. It puzzles me, how can you work in midwifery? And thank God it's not common, but how can you work in midwifery and behave like that? I don't get it.
No, that's absolutely terrible.
So that's the lesson. The worst, well, I heard all sorts of things. I heard of women that they cannot sit down for a year because of how bad the episiotomy has been done, the cut in the perineal area, and how that has had an impact in their sexual life, in the relationship with their children, in the relationship with, they have had a divorce, and, it's just amazing how much of an impact, and then I think probably the worst has been to see some bruising in some woman because of pressure or fundal pressure, and have bruising all around. And it's a terrible picture in Brazil, about obstetric violence that is there, and it's circulating in the internet in a project against obstetric violence, and it's this big scar, horrendous scar in the thigh of a woman that's lying down. It goes all the way to the back in the thigh.
Wow.
I have to face many times because of work people that that they think it's a fabrication. They think that we are too extreme, and I can understand that. I put myself in their shoes, and it's not an easy truth. It's not a comfortable one. But many years ago, I make a decision when I had a discussion on this debate in Spain, and it was that I'm on the side of the women. And if women are saying that, I don't think they're making it up,
No.
And I have seen the evidence, unfortunately. So.
And there's such a cultural pressure that we're kind of made to feel like we just have to be happy with our births because we have this baby that's alive, So really the experience that the woman lives through is really secondary, and if we complain about this, that they pushed my hand away or they cut me when I didn't want to, it just people discount it, and that must be really difficult for women to deal with.
Yeah, but because there is a culture, and this is when you have to dig deep, and I don't want to bore people that they don't, I don't know if they want to go into that depth, but in a very as superficial as I can be about it, I think that we have a culture that completely disregards the needs of women. and promotes this idea that we're second and that we are not that important and we need to sacrifice. I mean, and if you explore and explore and explore, is the model of, Virgin Mary versus Eve, and that is a huge model that has been followed in many cultures in different religions. It's been mimicked and so on, and that implies that you're either the selfish sinner woman that has choice and election and has desires and impulses, and the whole humanity is going to be punished forever because of you, or you can be Virgin Mary who sacrifices herself for the well-being of the rest.
One or the other.
Yeah, so you choose, and that is still, if you explore and you listen and you see the models of Disney and you see the movies and you start analyzing a bit, you see that that's in there. The woman that says, I want this, is always at the expense of being criticized for being selfish. And in the context of birth, even more so, because it's the maternal instinct is demanded. It's absolutely demanded in the sense that you have to be willing to give your life for your child, which I always think, yes, of course, but not out of imposition from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, of course I will, without thinking twice. Maybe not all women and maybe not all mothers. I think that sort of idea that every woman has to have that impulse, I don't think everybody has that. And then we know that there are some mothers that have real struggles and they abandon their babies or whatever. That exists. I don't like this idea that the mother has to be willing to just be completely, We have it in a very instinctive primal way, and most women do have that instinct over their children. But I think a society that just demands that at the expense that you mean nothing, you don't exist, you don't have feelings, you don't have desires, you don't have sexuality, you don't have an ownership of your body, it's not the same thing as the mother out of ownership saying, oh, look, if I die here, whatever. Which I think most of us have that moment in birth that you think, I think I'm going to break in two, and I think, I don't know what is going to happen, but it's no choice,
Yeah, I remember that moment. People, they had warned me about the moment, and I thought it was just, they made it up. It can't be like that, but I think that's part of the rite of passage you talked about. Yeah. It's important to live through that moment and
face your limits and come the other side.
Yeah, it's really.
It's like jumping. I always imagine it as jumping a cliff. I'm thinking, I always remember with the 3 children at the house, of going like, oh, I'm gonna die. Okay. There's no way back, so when you're really at the last moment and you just have to jump. There's no other way.
Yeah. It's quite something. So how common would you say that, I guess if we define obstetric violence as these examples that you've given, how common is this in England, for example, from maybe the less violent to some of the more?
I think that I'm not entirely sure. We're very clueless in terms of statistics. It's very difficult because it's very secretive. It's very accepted in many levels. I mean, you have obstetricians trying to understand this complexity of the term, which means that they obviously are not sure of when are they incurring on obstetric violence or not. But I think the difference between the UK and Spain, for example, or the difference between different countries is just in the culture, is in the way that it's done. Okay. So my guess from listening to women, for example, I listen to women around the world everywhere, but to women in let's say Latin cultures, if you wish, versus more Anglo-Saxon type of cultures, it may be that it's more succinct, it's more like subtle in the way that it's done. So it may be in a more...
Where? In the UK, for example?
In the UK and Anglo-Saxon cultures. I think that there are other things that they become abuse. But in Spain it's very abrupt and it's very obvious. I mean, in Spain they may jump on top of your belly and press down because they sell you the goal that that's how babies come out. And there's a culture that supports that because it's ignorance. In the UK, I think it's just in malpractice. I think it's just in doing things when they're not needed to be done. Unfortunately, because, of course, there is a lot of campaigning against C-sections at the moment, it can turn the other way. It can turn that some women feel abused because they didn't have enough pain relief when they wanted it. Because it's You know, I always think, and it's the same with intervention, and it's the same with breastfeeding, that when you're doing it following a politically correctness without understanding why you're doing it, then it's a mess. Because if you start preventing women from having C-sections just because the guideline says that you should be having more physiological births, you're not getting what the problem is.
That's true. Good point.
So for me, it's equally abusive to deny a woman pain relief or denying a C-section when needed, that it is for women that they want to have a home birth and they can have it, or they, you know.
Yeah. They feel equally disrespected and not valued. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And would you also say that, I guess what makes it complicated is that a lot of professionals aren't even aware that they are committing, this violence. It's so institutionalized that they don't know.
It makes it complex because of the whole society is looking at women in this way. That it's more important that you have I'm going to be very blunt, but that you have a body that is satisfactory for your husband, for example. That's a big concern of society, and it may not be said in so many words, but it is there always at some point. I mean, I have a woman. Funny enough, I know of a woman in the UK, and the nurse that was stitching her after a tear in her vagina or after an episiotomy, I cannot remember, made the comment as he was doing it of saying, "I'm going to leave you better than you were before."
Yeah, the husband stitch, right?
Oh, the husband stitch, which is a stitch that is given in episiotomies and so on. So all that is implied is that, this vagina is not, because it's part of your body and it should be sacred, It's not because it's going to birth other babies. It's not because you may want to enjoy it. No, it's because this is a sexual part that belongs to all of us as spectators, So like that, you have other things, it's like the complete disregard of women as such, as individuals, as subjects, but rather than more objects, And what you were saying about the most important thing is the baby, not the woman. Again, the women are seen as recipients. Yeah. And all the conversations are always from that point of view. So how can you start the conversation when we have two ideas? One, that birth is pathological, and I don't care how much they tell me that they're changing that. Yeah, but we still come from that point. And that birth is seen from a very male perspective, and in a society that women are completely disregarded in terms of ownership of their physiology.
Yeah.
And their physiology is pathological. How menstruation, menstruating in Spain is to ponerse mala, to be ill. To be ill.
Yeah.
When it's the only physiological process I can think of, besides menopause and birth, and breastfeeding,
Yeah, really. I mean, there's this.
So if you start
deep.
By the age of 11 thinking that you are ill every time you're menstruating, by the time you go to give birth, that's like a major ordeal, and you need help urgently. Your body's about to explode somehow, So in that culture, it's very difficult. That makes it very complex because you're not in an aseptic field that you can say, this is obstetric violence. No, you are in the middle of something that had generated that and promotes that and perpetuates that and supports it.
Yeah, it's true. I'd say there's women who, when they explain to me their stories, I think they've been, victims of obstetric violence, but maybe the woman is completely happy with her birth experience, and then it's the other ones, that are, maybe they were a bit more educated going in, and they're really unhappy with what happened to them. So, how do you help these two women? Is it even worthwhile that the first person knows that maybe there are some things that weren't ideal, or if she's happy with her birth, should we leave it at that?
That's such a tricky one. I don't know myself, if I'm completely honest. I've been in many situations like that. I remember going into a shoe shop in Spain where they knew me, and the girl telling me how it was the best thing that she was having a C-section because birth is a horrendous thing, and the whole lot. The whole lot, everything was, the baby had a massive head. I was imagining this baby, being completely distorted by the way she was describing it. Everything was like that. I couldn't, and I felt like that. I felt like, what do I do? Do I explain anything? I mean, do I give her a lecture of 2 hours here to decode all that? Mm. And ultimately, I think it's, I'm very wary of becoming paternalistic myself. Yeah. Maybe it's not her time. Maybe, it's her thing. And who am I, The positive out of that is like, because of her perception of it, she doesn't suffer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a lot worse when you want something and you go to a hospital and you come out completely full of anger because you didn't want that and they didn't listen to you. That is a horrific experience. The other woman, she doesn't know that she could have had it a lot better. I really hope that maybe in the next birth she discovers that. But it's not my journey, it's not my thing, it's not my place. And I don't want to then be the other, paternalistic figure saying, you should have done this.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes I feel conflicted with my work because the women come in kind of not knowing a whole lot. I inform them and they often then wish to have some type of a birth, and then a lot of them, the system just doesn't support them and they have a hard time getting that birth they want. So then I think maybe it would have just been better that they hadn't known all these things, So sometimes it's complicated.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. But I think the happy medium is always not a happy medium. No, I think the standpoint, I personally think, you may see it differently, is that, you can only do so much and you can only just say, this is what it is.
Yeah.
I used to get very upset. I used to come home from classes and thinking, what's the point? Just going to a postnatal reunion and out of 8 people, 4 had C-sections, 2 had inductions, and they were all complaining about this and that, and they couldn't even figure out where to start with their own emotions. And I thought, am I changing anything? And I often thought, well, no, maybe not right now, but, that's there. The information is there. Mm-hmm. I'm nobody to tell them to get it or to use it or to put it into practice. That's their call. And it may be with a second child, or maybe with a third, or maybe never, or maybe that they remember when they have a grandchild and they think, who knows?
In order for us to make some changes in this world, we just have to keep chipping at it. Yeah. It's kind of like what you said in the beginning. It's just we can't not do this work.
Yeah, I have no choice.
The price is too high. Okay, let's see.
Coffee helps.
So does chocolate.
Chocolate is healthier. Sorry, I forgot I was talking to healthy people. I don't do that very well.
So what can we do as professionals? So our students listening to you, what can they do as professionals to maybe put in some effort to help change the system and help these women not become victims of obstetric violence?
If I knew. I think being aware of it is far more important than what we know, what we think. We tend to don't think that that's anything. But I want to do something. Yeah, awareness is a big thing. Okay. Because you're not part of that ignorance that is perpetuating this issue, just by understanding that this can be a problem. Now, if you have a woman that has been a victim of it, then listen to her. She needs to be listened, and listen from a place of, just in a sort of mirror way, in a reflective listening, which is just basically just feedback what she's saying to you. Yeah. Just saying, well, you think that this could happen, so by what you're saying, you're really upset about this, aren't you? And, don't impose any judgment, or you should have gone there, or you should have tried this, or should have that. Just basically, she probably needs the space to don't feel judged, and if she comes to you, it's because she feels that she can do that. Yeah. Prior to that, give information, and I think by not being too prescriptive, that enables freedom, and that promotes more willingness to try to to think for yourself. I think that if you go to a class, I hear of stories of, maybe people go to yoga, they do this and they do that, and my teacher has given me the Aina May Gaskin book, and she has told me that I should be rejecting an induction and so on. I think that, that can turn people away because you're just saying you have to do this, and nobody likes to be told what to do.
No.
That's one. And the other one is that if she does follow your advice and she goes for rejecting the induction and so on, and something happens, or she just feels that it's not what she wanted, she's really going to reject that as a concept. She's not going to explore further. She's going to think all the people that talk this kind of talk are rubbish and they don't know, and my C-section, da da da. So I think it's a lot better that you actually give her the freedom to choose, and that you actually say, look, have A, B, Z, B, it may be worth investigating this. So have you thought about looking at this website? And, and open up the doors, but not just filling up somebody's head with ideas or projections of what should do, or scaring her saying, doctors are evil, lately all I'd say to my clients when they feel conflicted is like, look, birth is a normal, natural, physiological process that has been happening so long that you are all the product of a successful birth, most of you. And we came here because of that, after 2,000 years of very successful birth in even more difficult circumstances that you can imagine today. Because I think people are getting so hung up with things. Do I need to drink isotonic things? And do I need to do this? And I'm thinking, look, we birth in concentration camps, in caves, probably up trees.
Yeah.
If we can do that, I'm sure in King's College you're going to be fine. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
And I say to them, so you can do that, it's a physiological process. And then, if it doesn't work, there is science. So you're very lucky. You have all that.
Yeah.
You have your own body, which is magnificent. And then if that, for whatever reason, doesn't work, you have a fantastic progressive science that is going to support you and help you. But, so...
And
I don't know what else we need. We need something else apart from
So what about from kind of your activist side of things, if professionals are interested in becoming kind of champions of eradicating these kind of horrible experiences women have, what can they do, or how can they get involved?
Shouting. Shouting is good. And I call shouting or making noise to just, jump on any sort of campaign on Facebook or Twitter and promote that. Shouting can be, just talking to your neighbors or casually to bus, people in the bus or whatever, any situation. I mean, I campaign with cab drivers that they have never going to give birth themselves, but...
You got a captivated audience. They have to listen to you.
And I always say that birth is like, it's like football for most men, that they can connect with others. If you like football, a lot of men, I see them that in different countries they connect, because they can talk about football sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of men do. So it's similar to that. I think birth connects even more people than football because
everybody's been born.
Yeah, we have all been born,
Yeah.
Lots of us are going to give birth, and all of us have been born. So I think that is, and it's interesting because everybody's interested in birth. If you drop the topic with cab drivers, with, grandmothers, with, everybody has something to say.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that, don't consider any, I'm a great campaigner for saying that it's not just too small. If you actually talk to your neighbor and say, hey, I heard about this thing called obstetric violence, what do you think? Have you ever heard of that? Whatever you say, you're changing the culture. You're already challenging the status quo. You're already dropping seeds here and there, So it's all important. It's don't feel that you have to change yourself to do something and make a great demonstration, or because I think a lot of people feel that, well, I cannot be an activist, and I'm thinking we're all activists.
Yeah, in our way.
The moment you activate, you're taking part in history and you're changing it by just the mere fact of being there, So you cannot possibly not be. No option.
I think those are some great tips. So, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or do you think that's a pretty good summary of what is obstetric violence, how does it impact women, and what we can do.
I would like to add that, I think it's great that Kaisa is doing this sort of webinar, raising such important issues as far as fitness and other fields that I perhaps never thought about. So I think it's great, and I'm honored that you invited me. That's all I would like to know.
Well, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. And I hope I get to see you in London sometime soon.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so too.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.